saw the video segment about print sportswear, and it talked about how they segment their market. First, let's talk about some of the different ways that we said we could segment a market. What are some of the key ways that we said we could segment a market? Remember, we said segmenting is about dividing a market into sub-markets. We're aggregating a group of potential customers together that have similar needs and wants, that respond to the marketing mix in a similar way, and are reachable. And so what are some of the ways that we could segment the market? Go ahead.
So we could do it demographically, based on our age, gender, maybe religion, other things like that. Or we could do it, let's say, what do we call it, psychologically? Psychographic, sorry. Yeah, and that
so what's psychographic? What is that?
That's by lifestyle, by the choices that people go through every day. So this would be a psychographic market because it's a lifestyle thing. People play tennis.
All right, we're gonna talk about that. What else? So we have demographic, psychographic, behavioral, which would include usage rate would be a good example of behavioral. So they're a light user, a moderate user, a heavy user, which is important for us to know. Go ahead.
Geographic.
Geographic.
People live in certain regions will have similar interests.
Right. And there's a lot of different ways that you could segment a market or a category. Let's think about the way that Prince segmented the market. Go ahead.
They did one demographically. They had 3 different lines for a very advanced player, a more conventional casual player, and for children. So they did that by age.
And so they named those segments. What do they call them? Because once you segment the market, we name the segments. And remember, this is something usually that's internal, although sometimes our segmentation is something that translates, obviously, into our branding or our product strategy. But we could have, we have internal names for our products. What are the segments that they've identified? How do they name them? Go ahead.
They gave the first one, I think, was something like professional, performance. And they had recreational and junior.
And this is specifically for tennis?
Yeah.
So for tennis, the tennis market, there's a lot of different ways that we could look at the tennis market, and they segmented the market based on these classifications. What do these mean? What's the difference between those segments, and why is it relevant?
Well, I wanted to say that the last segment, the junior segment, could you say that it's more of the beginner segment, not junior segment?
Yes and no.
That it's not specifically towards a kid.
It's a smaller racket.
The child playing.
It's a smaller racket.
They have smaller rackets.
The middle one is.
There's other ways that we could segment the market. We're just trying to identify the way they segmented the market. So definitely we could come up with different approaches, absolutely. But for us, in terms of a takeaway, what we want to do is understand the way they segmented it. But I agree, there's other ways definitely we could look at it. Go ahead.
I believe the way that they marketed was the performance was for more professional players. People are going to play more competitively. Recreationals, if you want to casually play, and the junior, like they showed in the video segment, is for younger players that are beginning, that are younger and smaller.
So it has to do with, they segmented the market based on skill?
Yeah, skill.
Yeah.
So the level of skill.
Skill and frequency of use.
And also comfortable, like the comfortable.
Okay, so that's another interesting component, is that your level of skill and also how often that you play.
Your comfort. Comfort as far as what you're looking for in the racket.
Right, so now that we segmented the market this way, so then how does that translate into their product? So in other words, we said that some have a very high level of skill, some have a very low level of skill. How did they modify their product. Because remember, we're saying that this segment is large and they have similar needs and wants and they're going to respond to the marketing mix in a similar way and they're reachable. What do we do about that? So are we going to sell the same racket to each of these segments, or is the benefit of segmenting the market this way so that we could tailor and customize the racket for each of these segments? Go ahead, Zach.
I mean, big benefits separated, because I'm saying, like, if somebody who's going to go to Walmart to buy a tennis racket, they're not going to go there. Like a performance racket, you can also assume is more expensive than a recreational racket. So like, no one's going to be going to Walmart to buy a $500 tennis racket than they would to buy a $50 one. So it has a lot to do with, like, more than just the amount you play.
So the level of skill is significant, and in terms of product, what Zach is saying is that this racket is going to be very expensive, and then the rackets that they're going to sell, for example, to the junior segment is going to be basically inexpensive, certainly inexpensive relative to what they charge for performance. And Jack also took us another step, which has to do with where you distribute the product. So he said some products are distributed at Walmart, and Walmart is known as an everyday low price retailer, EDLP. But then Zach pointed out that these rackets you're not going to be able to buy there. Do you guys agree?
Oh, yeah.
So that it has an impact, the way we segment through the market has an impact on the price for the product, where we distribute the product.
Yeah.
So what are those two things that we just mentioned as it relates to the marketing mix?
Product.
Price, place,
Product.
and what about the product? How does the product change? Go ahead.
They made considerable changes that maybe the ones that are more professional, the changes are relevant for them, but those changes they're not necessarily relevant for the casual users. So like the amount that the racket vibrates or stuff like that.
So how did they improve the performance? What's the difference between this racket, the performance racket, and the junior racket?
They made it more specific. They said that they increased the sweet spot size by 83%, which has a better return on the energy. So someone who's more skillful and they know how to play, someone who's less skillful and they don't know how to play as well, the racket will perform just as well anyways. But the performance ones are more specific, which you know how to use them better in like a tailored fashion to play to a higher level.
So there's features that the racket has that somebody with more skill is going to be able to utilize.
Yeah.
But the rackets that they're trying to sell to the junior segment, it doesn't have those features, or it does?
I mean,
No,
they sort of made
it
it,
has
just,
different-
they sort of made it like for dummies. in
They
a
made it
sense.
cheaper.
For dummies.
So it's easier to use.
Yeah, so it's more simple, but the things that are like, maybe a junior wouldn't be able to use the performance racket because it's more specific. But if you know how to use it, it's a better tool.
So they've definitely modified the product in that way. Anything else? How else did they modify the product?
Size.
Size. So that's important. So they've identified these segments, and now we're talking about the different ways that they tailored the product. What else? So the size of the product, we said. What else? What else is it about the product that's different? So it's not one size fits all. Is that right? Or they're trying to sell a standardized product to each one of these segments?
No.
No, to which question?
No, it's not.
It's not a standard.
It's not standardized. So the segmentation of the market was not an academic exercise for them. It's not just interesting. They segmented the market and identified these segments that have similar needs and wants, and then they developed products to specifically meet the needs of each of those segments. Is that right?
Yeah.
And it means that they changed the size of the product, they changed the price of the product, the design of the product, the features of the product. So it has implications. It's not just that you segment the market and that's it. You segment the market for a reason, so that you could identify segments and maximize the sales of the company. Because each one of those segments, right, we said that we tailored a product for each one of those segments. And each one of them is large and reachable. And that means that we're going to be able to sell more rackets, because we also understand, as Zach was saying, that we're not going to just try and sell all our rackets in Walmart, although Walmart is the world's largest retailer. But we have to know where is the best place to sell our product. And if we have multiple product lines, then very often we're going to sell in different channels of distribution. So we might sell in discount stores. We're also going to sell in sporting goods stores. In some cases, we might sell in department stores. You might even find maybe these junior rackets, you might even find them in convenience stores. In some cases, you might find these products in wholesale clubs. But certainly, there's got to be an alignment between our price and the channel in which we sell the product. So this is an example, and I think this is a good example of, in pricing, what we call good, better, best pricing. So you see why it's just not academic what they did, that it has significant implications. And so they have an inexpensive racket, a moderately priced racket, and also an expensive racket, which they're trying to sell to professional athletes. Now, how does that impact our advertising? Are we going to be able to use the same commercials or print ads for all of these segments, or is there something we have to change? Go ahead.
Yeah, the segments are very helpful because they help us identify our market, in the sense that we know that people looking for a recreation for a performance racket would probably go to a store that's more tailored just to sports. So they would probably go to a sporting goods store, or like they said in the video, a place specifically is a tennis shop where people go there to get tennis product. So it's helpful because it helps tailor what the customer is looking for.
Absolutely, that's a very good point. And then take it the next step now in terms of advertising. How is that going to impact our approach to advertising and the different media that we might use and the messaging? What do you think, Alan?
Maybe the recreational one, you can advertise it in like social network and stuff like that. And the performance, you can advertise it in tennis courts when the more professional and frequent players play, and the junior ones maybe in toy stores or something like that.
So, yeah, so outdoor advertising, as you're suggesting, you might have a billboard at tennis events where you could reach tennis players, but also definitely people who are tennis enthusiasts or aspiring professional tennis players. Do you think that's significant, or the only people who buy the performance rackets are those that are professional athletes? What do you think?
Oh, there's a lot.
Yeah.
If people who are just like me, I guess, I could get sucked into buying a $500 racket just as easily as anyone else. It's a matter of promoting it the right way.
And so what is it, what is part of the expectation when you buy a product like this, or later on we're going to look at a golfing glove? Are you guys familiar with this golfing glove called Reptile? What is it? What is it about the Reptile glove, or this performance racket, or Air Jordan sneakers? What is the expectation? Go ahead, tell us.
Well, it kind of seems like it's worse than middle and best. So even though that's not exactly what it is, it's supposed to be for different people. But the expectation is that the professional one will be the best one. So if even though someone's not at that level, they might say, "Oh, this is the best. I'll get this one."
So it is a high perceived value. But when we talk about quality, there's got to be perceived quality and performance quality. Do you guys see the difference? Who could tell us the difference, and then we're going to come back to that. Go ahead.
I think for a company like Jordan, Air Jordan sneakers, the sneakers that you can get that are replicas or they're cheaper, they're made cheaper but still from Nike, still from Air Jordan. Those really allow the company, the sales from those I think allow the company to be able to finance the making of the more expensive shoe, where they really show the performance advancements they've put into it, and any type of research that has gone into making a better Jordan basketball sneaker is displayed in that model, whereas in the cheaper model, they've tried to emulate the look of the more expensive model so that people feel like they're getting it, but know that they're unable to afford the real thing, but there's more sales of cheaper products than there are of the higher priced performance products.
In terms of the number of units?
Yeah.
Anybody want to add to that? So there's two separate points that we need to address here. One has to do with the expectations when you use this product, and that's related to performance. And that performance is a component of quality. So what I was suggesting is that when we talk about quality, we have to look at performance and also perception. Both are very important, and it suggests that there needs to be a way for us to substantiate our claims. Now, as it relates to these types of products, generally there's an expectation of performance, that using these products are going to enable you to be a better athlete, that it's going to give you some type of edge. And there's even a suggestion, whether it's subliminal or maybe it's us that think subconsciously that if we're wearing a pair of Air Jordans, that we're going to be able to jump higher. What do you think? Do you think people expect that? I mean, what does it mean for a product to be a performance athletic product? So these are, especially with Nike products, the way the product is marketed is that these are the sneakers or the footwear that athletes use. And they, historically, over the last several decades, have used celebrity endorsement as a way of building their empire. And so the suggestion is that these athletes use our footwear. They wear our footwear. And that's the reason why they can excel in the sport. Do you get that sense from the advertising and the marketing that just as consumers, have you gotten that sense in terms of the expectation that they're not coming out directly and saying that, well, that's all, once you wear these sneakers, that's it. You're going to be able to do the alley-oop and, right, that's it. You're going to 3-point shots all the way, right? 30 points a game. Can you believe it? The Knicks won on Friday? That's unbelievable. Yeah, that's impressive. Yeah, when I first started watching them, Patrick Ewing was on their team. You guys remember Patrick Ewing? Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, wow. He wasn't good, I don't know what it was. It was too tall, but I don't know. It's most of the time the shots wouldn't go in. But that's why they would always foul him. That was part of their strategy. But anyway, go ahead.
Is subliminal messaging illegal, or is it?
No,
No.
it's not illegal.
People could take it.
Well, unethical. It could be unethical, but you have to ask yourself if it's even effective. Like, is subliminal messaging, is that something that we believe is really having an impact on people? And what is the nature of the messaging? So in other words, if you're in a movie theater and before the show begins, they have some previews and so forth, and every 1 second they flash up the Pepsi logo. And it happens like so quick that really, I mean, it's not something that that you are aware of, that you might consider to be subliminal, right? That happens so quick, and then again it happens, but it's not up there long enough so that that you're conscious of the message or seeing the logo. So, yeah, your point is a good one. I mean, is that okay? Is that something unethical? You know, if it depends what the messaging is. You know, if it's something that could be harmful to others. What do you think about product placement? Is that something that you consider to be subliminal? What's product placement?
Where you put your product, who you're marketing to, as far as where your ads are on Facebook or something else.
Well, that's one way. I can see what you're saying. Sometimes we use the term that way when we talk about product placement.
Or which part of the store it's in.
That's also part of it, but there's a strategy that marketers use. So you're right, and sometimes some terms they are interchangeably, but I was thinking of something else.
I read that they place products in a store like proportionally to where the people will be. So like the best, most expensive cereals will be lower down because the little kids see it on their eye level, and like the average adult height, that's where they place the most expensive mouthwash because that's where they'll see it in their eyes. And the cheaper brands, like the off-brand names like Giant or CVS, they put it at the very bottom because they're much cheaper, and it's the same exact mouthwash.
Yeah, so placement on the shelf is definitely important. Is it at eye level, for example, or is it at the bottom? And children will influence the decision-making process, whether or not to buy that particular cereal. And the location in the store is also significant. So is it, are we going to have an end cap, which is at the end of an aisle? You have a big display. That's considered to be prime real estate in a store. And brands compete over that space because you have a lot of visibility, and it stimulates a significant amount of impulse purchase. But what about when you have, let's say, a TV show or a movie, and the star or the key actor or actress in the movie or the show reaches for something to drink, and they pick up a bottle of Pepsi. Now, everybody's watching, and you see that Pepsi logo. That's what we refer to also as product placement. And the companies have to pay for that because they could have reached and picked up a bottle of Coke or some other branded product. Yeah, or orange juice, right? Absolutely. Orange juice, like that. There we go. What's that? Orange juice? Is somebody drinking orange juice? What is that?
Oh yeah, Tropicana.
Let's see, let's see. Bring it up, let's see this. Let's check it out. You see, that was a subliminal message. Did you see this? You see? How many, grapefruit juice. Oh, he tried to trick us. But look, you see the, that's interesting. It looks like an orange on there. So now I have to start changing my mantra now to grapefruit juice.
No, it doesn't work.
But, no, orange juice, do you think that's better?
Yeah, orange juice makes.
But yeah, a while back, remember we were talking a little bit also about, somebody I think mentioned this, about the fact that they had changed their packaging.
Yeah.
And the customers were very upset by that because of packaging, and we're going to talk about this, is an important brand identity element and is part of what we call trade dress. Something that's recognizable and something that will show in every commercial. So for consumer products, you'll notice that almost always in a television commercial, they'll show the packaging at least once, sometimes twice, because they want us to be able to recognize the packaging at the point of purchase. So very important to have brand recognition, but also be able to recognize the packaging. So consumers were very upset when they changed the packaging because it stripped away the equity that they had in that design, that look and feel. And I remember myself the first time I saw it, and I was in the store and I was looking and I'm looking and I said, what, they don't have Tropicana? And I bought the one, I thought it was the store brand, right? Because I just ran in there to get orange juice, and I figured, oh, whatever, I'm just going to get this. Well, I mean, this is ridiculous. So how much time could I spend here? And I was double parked, so I said, I'll just get this. And then when I got home, I looked and said, what? It had such a different look to it, and something that the customers had become accustomed to and comfortable with, which is important. Just like when they changed the logo for Gap. Do you remember that? You know that historically, the Gap logo looks something like this, right? And then they changed it, and then I remember students, they were debating with me whether or not this logo was better or the new one was better. But the thing is that the customer was unhappy with the fact that the company changed the logo, because this was something that was familiar to them, and importantly, with this particular logo, there were strong, unique, and favorable brand associations, that they made connections with this logo and the brand name, and for them it was something that was very favorable. So it doesn't mean that you can't ever change your logo. Yes, you can, but you have to understand the expectations of your customer. Because remember, I told you, the easy part, so to speak, is to determine a brand name and create a logo. But to create associations with your brand name takes a long time, and usually takes millions and even billions of dollars to be able to achieve. Yeah, Joseph?
Why would anyone change their logo then if people already had a positive association with it and wouldn't want to see it change?
A company will reposition themselves. They want to reposition themselves so that they stay relevant to their target market. So sometimes you have positive associations, but then sometimes you might have other associations with your brand, and it might be something like, for example, that your brand is perceived as outdated or no longer relevant to the target market, or it's not contemporary or state-of-the-art, and so they want to change the perception that the customers have, or the potential customers. So one of the things they might do is to change the logo to maybe make it look a little bit more contemporary and something that maybe a younger generation can connect with. But it's not just changing the logo, you've got to change your entire marketing campaign as well. So, but if your logo is, so you got to ask yourself why you would do that is a good question. Is the level of brand awareness declining? Is the level of brand attitude, right, declining? Is there some metrics? Are we losing market share? So there's got to be some reason. I'm not sure if we would say if it ain't broke, don't fix it, because I like to think that we're committed to continuous improvement. But yeah, you have to have a reason for doing it.
It's not that it's broken.
Right.
You're just improving on what is there.
Yeah. So remember we talked about brands and said that when we look to create a brand identity, that it needs to be memorable, protectable, adaptable, and transferable. No? Okay, we will though. Those are 4 criteria. So when we develop the logo, right? When we come up with a brand name, when we develop a tagline and a slogan and packaging, those are 4 criteria that we need to use to evaluate the branding elements. Yeah, Joseph.
Before they do any of that stuff, will they do they'll do testing on people, no? They'll actually bring in like
Testing on people?
They'll do random people, but they'll be like, no, like how's this logo?
You can't do testing on people.
Not on them, no, but like
unless it's a trial in the pharmaceutical industry. But
no, like
a control.
that'd be funny, yeah.
yeah, you do. Of course, you want to do market
What's the
research.
association with this new logo? How about this? How does that?
Absolutely, we want to test. Remember, we said to identify the unmet need. We're going to test concepts. Absolutely, we do copy testing for advertising, or at least we should. I mean, some of the things that you see out there, you kind of wonder, like, really? You showed this to, you know, your target audience, and that they said this resonates with them? Like, it's compelling?
180, out of the 180 tests that you've done with 180 different groups of people, this is the best thing that you can get out of it.
Right, exactly. But, yeah, sometimes what we consider to be a commercial that's, let's say, for example, annoying, is not really in the industry what we would consider to be bad. Because sometimes an annoying commercial,
Stays in your head.
it's something that maybe there's a jingle or something that you can't get out of your head, or something that you talk about. You know, it's so annoying that you tell everybody that you know. Well, yeah, if you're able to create that buzz, then that's very compelling. So a commercial doesn't need to be likable.
Giving the finger at the Super Bowl.
That's some people, try to do that to get attention. And also, we don't need to use, when we think about the approach of our advertising, how we're going to execute it, it doesn't need to be funny. So humor is only one approach that we could use. The commercial doesn't need to be funny.
But even if it sticks in your head like an annoying commercial, that's a good thing, because it's sticking in your head bad as an annoying commercial, not as a good commercial. So,
But the trade-off is that because it's annoying that you talk about it with other people and you're talking about the brand, and so you're creating brand awareness by doing that.
bad
Right.
awareness.
Well, but you're talking about the fact that the commercial is annoying, but that doesn't mean that the product is bad. Right? It's just like, oh, you know, that commercial, I mean, it's just like so annoying, and every time I hear it, but every time you hear it, what happens? Do you turn the channel, or do you watch it? And then you talk about it with other people. Now, if you were saying that the product was, that meant the product was bad, then that would be that would be a bad association. That they then made the leap and said, well, the commercial is annoying, that means that the product must be of a low performance and low quality. Yeah, that would be concerning. Some people even argue that even bad publicity is good publicity. You know, they say there's no such thing as bad publicity, which is somewhat debatable. I struggle with that sometimes because
Depends what type of bad publicity. If you're getting sued for a faulty product, then that's bad publicity. But if you're getting bad publicity for, like, for instance, the person the singer at the halftime show giving the finger, considering that she has an album released in 2 weeks, yeah, that's bad publicity, but that's bad publicity in a good way that everyone's talking about it, so people are going to say, oh, her album's out, let's go see what she has to say, and stuff like that.
Right, absolutely. So it depends on what the focus of the publicity is. Now remember, you know the difference between advertising and publicity. What's the difference between advertising and publicity? What's the main difference that we should be concerned about?
Yeah, one is actually trying to engage targeting, like trying to engage people. Another one is just making a statement. I'm explaining it bad, but I'm saying like let's say this is like the main difference between like PR and advertising, right? Like one is actually engaging people and trying to get them involved in your brand, and the other one is just making a statement.
Well, it could have the same impact, but go ahead. Let's see if you could enhance
Is
what
it
we
one of
heard.
them that you do it and the other one is other people may do it? Advertising, you're putting advertisements out there, you're marketing a product to a certain category, a certain submarket. And publicity is like, it could be paparazzi, it just happens, it comes about.
Yeah, so all of those, what you guys are saying are good points. So to recap, advertising is a message that we create and we have control over. Publicity is a message that we don't create and we don't have control over. So in an ad, in a TV commercial, for example, we have control over what's said in the ad. With publicity, the thing that concerns us is that we have no control over what's going to be said. So even if they interview you and they say, well, we're going to write an article and so forth, or we're going to have a spot or a segment in our newscast, you have no control over what they're going to say. Publicity is considered to be free, and advertising is something that we have to pay for. Now, we could try to create publicity very often. That's what you're suggesting. When you do things like that that are going to draw attention to yourself. That's why there's a lot of discussion about some of the things that are going on with celebrities. They're like, was that something that was fabricated? Was that real? Was it some kind of stunt or something to get publicity? But yeah, so we have to be sensitive to that. So sometimes it could work to our advantage, and sometimes not. Especially if we're working with celebrities. What's one of the issues in working with a celebrity? What's one of the concerns? Go ahead.
Some people like them, some people don't.
So it could be very polarizing. So some people might not like that celebrity. And Prince, they try to use celebrities too, right, as part of their approach. What else, Max?
They can do something stupid off the field, like Tiger Woods.
Yeah. Right. Right. So.
Not one thing.
Yeah, it's multiple things that he did.
So. Exactly. So if you have a celebrity spokesperson, if you're using athletes, for example, that's great that they're a performance athlete. But what about if they're arrested for driving while intoxicated? What if they beat up their wife, etc., etc.? Then our concern is that that's going to have a negative impact on our brand.
What if they don't fit the role? Like, it's not believable that they're in the commercial.
Yeah, it could be. There definitely there could be a disconnect. Absolutely. So we want to pick somebody that's going to be relevant. Good, David.
I think it's also sometimes they're overused. Like especially with major brands, like this whole new concept, like the sheets. Have you seen the sheets energy strips?
I don't think so.
I guess whatever they made it like this major launch campaign with like an overdose of celebrities. People don't realize like if you don't like utilize each celebrity, like you can't just overflow with celebrities when it comes to like marketing.
Yeah, I mean it could be confusing. Yeah, there definitely needs to be
targeting
some
different markets.
focus.
Each celebrity has different market segments that they deal with.
No, that's smart.
No, but it's not when you're dealing with a product that's only dealing with millennials and dealing with like.
It's overloading.
Yeah,
But isn't it for energy strips like towards sports?
Yeah, but what's the target market for energy strips for sports?
People who play sport.
Yeah, 40-year-old guy is like, you're gonna die in the energy anyway, regardless of what he takes.
Oh, okay.
This guy is out of control. He's making statements.
All right, I better go take my vitamins. Go ahead.
When you hire celebrities, you also, when you're advertising, you want to advertise. You don't want to base your advertising off publicity, and by using public figures as for advertisements, you're basing your entire advertisement off of publicity. It's a little bit of marrying the two together, which you don't want. You want to be saying we're advertising this product, and instead of saying we're using the publicity of this person to advertise the product.
Yeah, some companies try to, they think that publicity is all that they need to create buzz and engage in viral marketing, but
Publicity only lasts so long.
yeah, what we're trying to do is to have a long-term build to formulating a relationship with our target market and target audience, to be able to engage them, and that's only something that could happen over time. It's difficult to be able to sustain publicity for a given company over an extended period of time, because basically you're like sort of you're creating publicity.
You're feeding off the publicity of
Right. Well, you're creating the events that lead to the publicity, and is that less expensive than advertising? Yeah, in some ways it could be, depending on the situation or where would we be advertising, but it becomes challenging to execute that over a long period of time. So it's something that that we need to consider carefully. And remember, importantly, is that we have no control over what the publicity is going to say. So we try to create publicity. We try to do things that are newsworthy to get this so-called free advertising. And then we're at the mercy of the reporters or newscasters as to what they're going to say. They might give it a positive spin. They might give it a negative spin. And then is it going to be something that's relevant to our brand and to our product line?
Or they might not give her a spin at all, and then it's completely waste of time.
Absolutely. So we're not the only ones that are out there that are trying to get publicity. They understand that. They understand when they do an editorial or a segment for a particular product or brand. They know what publicity is. All right, so good discussion. Let's talk now about where we left off. We'll just briefly talk about the difference between durable products and non-durable products. What did we say is another term for non-durable products? Consumable. So what's the difference between consumable and durable products? So I think I heard it. Go ahead.
Like a car, and
You reuse a durable product.
and non-durable things like maids and
So an example, I think I'm hearing you say that a durable product would be an example, a car, which has multiple uses, right? Well, that we could use multiple times, over and over again, that we don't use up. Now it could wear out. We could wear out our car or our computer, but it's not something that we consume. So food would be a good example of a consumable product because it's something that we use a few times and we use it up and we have to buy more. We have to replenish, like orange juice, right? So you buy orange juice and you drink it, and when it's done, it's done. It didn't wear out. We consumed it. So it's a consumable. So we used it up and then we buy more. So it's important to understand that because that's going to have an impact on our marketing strategy. So it's different when we're marketing a product that people buy every week versus a product that people buy every year or every 5 years.
Would sneakers be more of a durable or indurable?
Well, what do you think? Would the sneaker something that's durable or consumable?
Consumable.
It seems to me it's more consumable because either way, as far as the kids are concerned, your feet are always growing, so you have to get a new one every 6 to 8 months, whatever. But as far as adults, they wear out.
at the same time it's
It's
durable
pretty
more.
durable.
I think it's more
It lasts a
durable.
long time.
You
You
use
sell
it.
something.
You use it a lot.
You don't
use
just
it every
drink
day.
it.
Yeah, so I mean,
Chew.
different products are going to have a different lifespan. So your car might last 10 years, your sneakers might last 10 months, but that doesn't mean it's not durable.
There's no time like
They're cut off.
time.
And you're paying the price also of cars like at least $20,000 and shoes are.
No, time is not like one of the key determinants. The key distinguishing factor between durable and non-durable is that non-durable is something that you actually consume, that you use up, which is different from either you're wearing it out or you're outgrowing it. So that doesn't change the fact that the product is durable because your child's feet have grown. It's still a durable product. It's still a product that you could use again and again and again without using it up. You're not using it up, but it may be wear out, or you
Then
might
you buy another
outgrow it.
And then you buy another one.
Well, ultimately, you see, the issue with durable products is what we want to do as marketers is shorten the time between the initial purchase and repeat purchase, right? So with consumable goods, the period of time for a repeat purchase is usually very short. Could be like you're buying orange juice every week, versus with a durable product, it could be every year or every 10 years. But although that's something we need to take into account, the key distinction is that one, you are consuming and using up and then need to replenish, and the other you could use again and again without using it up. But you're right, I mean, you might outgrow those sneakers, or they might eventually wear out. Durable within this context does not mean indestructible. It's durable, but it could still break or wear out over time.
Are services non-durable or is it separate category?
Okay, so what do you think about service? Because when we talk about products in this context, we're using the term very broadly. So products would include durable and non-durable. And what did we say last time? Go ahead.
I would say first, as far as services, I think they're more durable because you could use them numerous times. If you have a warranty on a product, you could use it more than once.
So do you remember last time we made a distinction? We said these are goods, and then we have services. So when we talk about products, we're going to use a general classification, the term products, and products consist of goods, which could be durable or non-durable. Sorry, I have to chuckle about that. Sometimes we use the term consumable. And then also services. So two different classifications of products. All right. Let's see, we still have a little bit of time. All right, next time we're going to talk about branding and product lifecycle, but don't move. And we'll talk about introduction, growth, maturity, decline, obsolescence, and revitalization, which are the key stages of the product lifecycle, which is very important. But let's touch upon these. Convenience products, shopping products, specialty products, and unsort products. The reason why it's important to make this distinction, and the reason why it's important to make a distinction between durable and non-durable, is because that's going to influence our marketing strategy and tactics. So we need to classify the goods. We need to understand that because that's going to define our strategy. So what would be an example of a convenience product?
Food, orange juice.
Right.
Anything.
So convenience products are ones that
Easily accessible.
right, easily accessible, products that we buy frequently. So it could be, like you said, it could be juice, it could be types of food.
We're calling convenience products, but usually in the like supermarkets, they tend to put them all in the back corner and make you walk through the whole store in order to get to them. People need them more often, so when they walk in, they make them walk all the way through and check out the other products while they're on the way.
Right, so that's a very good point. In retail, we're very focused, like you guys started to address the issue of product placement, whether it's in the back of the store or the front of the store. And also in retail, we look at what's called adjacencies. Adjacencies are what's on the shelf next to our product, what's on the shelf below our product. On the other side of the aisle, what products are there? Are there complementary products or substitute products? So do you put the tea kettles next to the tea bags? And do you have dual placement? Do you have tea bags in the aisle with coffee, but then have a second section where you have cookware type items, pots, pans, and tea kettles, and put tea bags there? And do you also put honey next to that? So very important in retail. And what about shopping products? What's the difference? Pretty much it's almost the opposite of convenience product. something that we buy much less frequently, and something that we spend a lot of time generally researching before we make a purchase. So another way that we could look at this is say that convenience products are usually low involvement products, and shopping products are generally high involvement. So there are two different models, if you will, two different ways to look at the purchase dynamic, but I think it's applicable here to kind of make that leap.
How would you classify something that people buy in bulk? Although it's like a convenience product that they buy, that they need frequently, or they use it frequently, but yet they buy it in bulk, like paper towels or cups or something like that. It's not so much convenience because, I mean, although they're using it every day, they're only buying it once a month or once every other month, because when they do buy it, they buy it in bulk. Oh
yeah, that's something that we need to be aware of, and it's called overstocking the trade, but also overstocking the customer or the consumer. Because what happens is, when we do that, if we sell it in bulk, that means we need to understand, or we're selling buy one, get one free. What happens is people stock up, right? And so we're going to see a spike in sales for that period. And then what happens the next month? Well, they got like a year's worth of honey or tea bags or cereal or whatever it is already. What next month they're not going to buy. And so would that be some sort of hybrid here between, well, it's a convenience product, but maybe even though it's low involvement, but we don't buy it very often now. I think it's that's going to not change how we classify the product, but how we classify you as the shopper. You see, so I would still say that in general, that product would still either be convenience or shopping, but your behavior, and that's a different focus, is specifically consumer behavior is what's going to change. I wouldn't say that would change the classification of the product. What do you guys think? Do you think that that paper towels are still a convenience product, even though you might buy it in bulk? I mean, it's still a product that usually you buy regularly and is a low involvement purchase. Yes, I would say that it's two different issues, is how you classify the product, and the other is how we classify your behavior. So whether or not you're buying, whether or not it's a planned purchase or an impulse purchase, or you're buying in bulk like you suggested. All right, so you guys ready to go? Fabulous. All right, have a good night. We'll do this again soon.